So I just wanted to come on here and talk about grief and bereavement, because just for context, today would have been my dad's birthday. He passed away early last year, and there's something that just people don't really talk about with grief and bereavement enough, or really at all. There's an aspect of like how difficult the second milestones are. Or the third. Like, we always hear about time heals all, and we hear about the first milestones, they're going to be horrific, and they are horrific. But I found that for me personally, like, I just kind of bulldoze through the first milestones. So his first anniversary, my first birthday, his first birthday, those kind of major family things. But I don't hear anyone talking about the second or the third, or whichever else. So today is the second one, for his birthday and stuff. And I really struggled with Father's Day this year, like really struggled as well. I ended up joining a charity like workshops and community called the Loss Foundation, where they help people, sort of family members or other people who have lost someone or are in the process of losing someone to cancer. And they're a really good charity. Really, the workshops are quite intense, but it really beneficial. And I'm joining another one kind of soon, but there seems to be a gap between sort of, you know, just the loss and the first instant of losing, and then a couple of years down the line, and it's like, what about that middle part where you're still trying to just try not to cry, still trying to navigate your life without that person? You know, and my dad is not the first major loss. I've unfortunately lost friends, best friends, other very close family members as well. Particularly during COVID, there was about 5-6 people around me that I lost, people that were school friends from all the way back. But it's my dad, so you know, it a very significant loss as a kind of whole. And like, you can deal with, or you learn to live with, you know, the other aspects of grief. You know, it's the silence that gets me, or at least used to get me at the start. Like, I wouldn't, you know, I'd see pictures of him or whichever else, and I wouldn't kind of grieve, but then I'd be like putting socks on the error and it would just hit me. And it's that kind of stuff that I think there also needs to be more of a conversation kind of around, because it's the quietness of grief. It's when you're doing the everyday thing and there's a disconnect between what's the everyday and your reality and what's happened. And it's that, isn't it? But really, I suppose it's, yeah, the second milestone. So I put things in place today to kind of really help me, like fun things, and I done things in memory, which I always do. My dad was a chef, a really good and successful chef. I was very spoiled. He was amazing. And his speciality was Italian food, so I'm going to have pizza, and I'm just going to raise a glass to him later on. There's a couple of other little things that I've done today and in memory, and those are the things that we tend to hold on to and tends to help us, because it allows us to kind of ground our grief in and stuff. So I made that easier. There was something I had planned on Father's Day, but I hadn't really done. But I think at least it's different, because with Father's Day you just see things everywhere. And yeah, there's a funeral home that I'd go past and it would have like Father's Day stuff all over it, and that would set me off every single time, because it is a little bit like, you know, somebody holding a picture up of your grief, or somebody, like, you've just put this plaster on a wound and somebody comes along and they rip it off, and it just gets you sometimes. But yeah, this is my whole point. I feel like nobody really talks about not just the silence of grief as a whole, but also how difficult it is beyond the first year, because you're still adjusting, you're still grieving, and how I found in many ways the second milestones more difficult than the first. I know I'm not alone. I know there'll be other people kind of there, but it just felt like a really important thing to share and talk about and appreciate. I normally do tarot and stuff, but it's all kind of a part of it all. But yeah, if you are grieving and going through the motions of it all, you know, I don't think time heals all, but I do think that we learn to live with things as the sort of baseline with that. But grief is a funny thing. It can just hit you. There's a good friend that I lost that unfortunately took their own life a very long time ago. and I'm still grieving them in many ways. I don't think I'll ever stop grieving them and grieving their love, but the way that I grieve is slightly different. But yeah, that's all I want to share. Thank you. Bye.